Good morning. Good morning. It is 3 o'clock a.m. I'm on my way to the gym right now. And yesterday or last night, me and my wife, we were sitting up and we were having a talk about family. And we were talking about how family, in all families, I think the reason why Tyler Perry has been so successful at what it is that he's been able to put together with the Medea series is because Medea somewhat on a realistic scale identifies with typical families. Medea Christmas is always about some family having some dysfunctional situation before unwrapping the gifts. Medea holiday, Medea goes to jail, Medea family reunion, Medea funeral. All these Medea series, if you look at them, actually resemble a lot of people's families. But the conversation we were talking about was how there's always this elephant in the room. There's always this unspoken truth. And I think the one reason why I've stood out, when I say stand out, I mean stood out, I mean set aside, is because I don't have a filter. I don't have a clear understanding and never have about why certain things should not be talked about. But in all families there is. And then it always ends up imploding at the funeral. Somebody knocks over the bereavement table, somebody knocks over the casket, somebody arguing, somebody who's gay comes out the closet, and all these different little elephants that's been there all along comes out at the inopportune time. And what we were talking about was how sometimes it's best to expose those things. Because see, when you fail or when you say, you know what, I'm not going to acknowledge this elephant in the room because uncle didn't acknowledge it, daddy didn't acknowledge it, mama didn't acknowledge it, grandma didn't acknowledge it, we'll just sweep this under the blanket. We'll sweep this under the rug and, we'll continue on how we have been for the last 50 years. And then those problems just keep seething. They keep rearing their ugly head. They keep coming up. They keep driving a division in life. I'm fascinated by the Kennedys. And I'm not just fascinated because of John F. Kennedy. I'm fascinated going all the way back to their parents, to Joe Kennedy. Ethel Kennedy. They had to have enough foresight, in regardless of the prohibition and some of the other things that they may have been involved with, which I think everybody was involved with, because there was still a misunderstanding about how liquor laws were being distributed. They knew that the federal government, just like everything, was trying to legalize something that would take money out of their pocket and put money back into their pocket. But let's take all that out of there. There was never really any elephants in the room. And when I say elephants, besides people's own personal attributes that were on public trial, John F. Kennedy with Marilyn Monroe, sneaking women into the White House, there was never really any elephants in the room. Not elephants that were so big. And then we think about Ted Kennedy and the situation that happened with that young lady going over the cliff or drowning. But I think because the majority of what happened with them was so public that it wasn't necessary for there to be an elephant in the room. There wasn't necessary for there to be this big dark secret that nobody talked about. And I think those big dark secrets creates the divide. because everybody starts seeing things one way or another. Same thing with my grandmother. I used to always wonder why I never used to see my grandmother's sisters or her siblings. And I can only imagine that there was some type of divide. There was a division amongst them that created a split that said, hey, I'll go raise my family one way, you go raise your family another way. And that happens, I get it. But how do you stop that from happening inside of your own happening? How do I stop that from happening with my wife and our kids so that they can have a way of being that doesn't cause them to have such a big difference or such a big split where there's a separation or where they feel like they can't trust one another? You know, I bumped into my sister a couple days ago after not seeing her for over a year. I don't think she may have still met my daughter, but I'm not sure. But I just bumped into her and she said she was under the impression I was mad at her, or I had said something about her. How could anything get in the way of that relationship to the point where we lose years over what we thought happened instead of confirming what happened? How do we lose that? How do we keep it together? How do we keep it together? How do you start a new trend? How do you start your own dynasty? Because see, that's what the Kennedys were. They were a dynasty. Say what you want. But how many families have you seen do that? How many black families have you seen do that? In spite of the rumors, in spite of the headline news, in spite of it, they still maintain solidarity, a sense of honor. Their name meant something. How do you do that? It's simple. You address things as they come up. You accept people for their faults, but you accept things as they come up. You don't sweep it under the rug. There's an understanding, there's a creed, there's a motto. What do you stand for? What kind of family do you want to raise? What is your purpose? And sometimes when you do see big families, really all you see is a bunch of people holding each other down. Not building each other up. And we need more building each other up. As much as I love Tyler Perry, as much as I love his movies, and as much as I agree with the stereotypes There's got to be more movies where the family is still together. Building something bigger than just what they can see in their own bank account. Because the fact is, if you're not a builder, you're a destroyer. Bottom line.